Right now on Upfront.
24 hours to go.
People actually need to show up, so that's my only concern.
Countdown to the Iowa caucuses, the first in the nation, and we are here.
Are you ready to brave the elements on Monday night?
Now, the final hours of campaigning, the snow and historic cold, the road to the Republican nomination in Wisconsin. It all begins here.
And remembering former Senator Herb Kohl.
You know, everybody wants to do whatever they can to make this world a better place. And in my own small way, I have tried to do that too.
A public memorial at Fiserv Forum, the life and legacy of the politician, businessman, and former Milwaukee Bucks owner. His longtime friend Chuck Pruitt is here. Plus, betting on a new casino.
And it will bring much needed entertainment.
A critical vote in Kenosha County just days away. Another attempt at a new casino. Kenosha County Executive Samantha Kirkman on the long road still ahead, just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this special split edition of Upfront. Matt, you have made it to a very snowy and cold Iowa ahead of the caucuses tomorrow night.
Hi, Jaron. Just like you are seeing back home, tomorrow night now expected to be the coldest caucus night ever here in Iowa, raising questions in and of itself about what turnout is going to look like. Nonetheless, here on the ground, we are now in the midst of the final push, the final hours of campaigning for these candidates that will end with the Republican nomination at the convention in Milwaukee. Not much can stop a presidential campaign dead in its tracks. But 72 hours from caucus night, a good old-fashioned Iowa blizzard did just that. Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley canceling campaign events Friday.
We're pretty used to campaigning out in the in the Midwest with cold weather and snow, and so I think for safety we wanted to make sure that we're doing everything the right way.
Haley instead holding telephone town halls.
And I took that book and I gave it to President Trump. And he lost his mind.
The storm even playing a bit with our cameras as we caught up with Pat Garrett, a Marquette grad running comms for Nikki Haley's campaign in Iowa. When you look at the end of the road, which is the convention in Milwaukee, how important is Monday night?
So Iowa really kicks everything off. And so, you have a lot of people all over the country that haven't really tuned into this race yet. They're kind of waiting till Monday night. And so Nikki having a strong showing here in Iowa, that's why I'm out here.
Should Wisconsinites pay attention to what happens Monday night?
Wisconsin should pay attention, and honestly, Iowa's going to kick things off, as I said, but Wisconsin, at the end of the day, a battleground state like Wisconsin's going to pick up the next president of the United States.
Iowa, in these final days, seemingly a race for second between Haley and DeSantis, the first critical and potentially campaign-ending test on the road to the Republican nomination in Milwaukee.
If you're willing to go out there, you're willing to brave those elements for 3-4 hours, however long it takes to get there and caucus and come home, and you do that and you springboard us, I'll be your voice for the next 8 years. We will turn this country around. You'll have somebody in the Oval Office that will fight for you.
By the time we get to Monday, it's going to be really cold. Probably not as cold as you've experienced in Wisconsin, but ultimately, will it detract? Maybe a little. Maybe it'll take it from record-breaking to great.
Jeff Kaufman is chairman of the Republican Party of Iowa. It all ends in Milwaukee with the convention.
Absolutely.
It starts here. How important is Iowa still?
I mean, I think we start the whole process, and we're not supposed to pick the nominee. 43% of the time we have, but the majority of times we have not. I think sometimes, to be real frank with you, I think New Hampshire gets a little ahead of itself. We pick presidents, you pick court. No, you don't. We all in the carve-out system are expected to have a level playing field so that all of these candidates, regardless of how much they have in their campaign treasuries, all of them have a shot at making their case. That's why Iowa's important.
Former President Donald Trump with a dominant lead in the polls. Trump canceling his planned rally Saturday because of the weather. Donald Trump Jr. just outside of Des Moines, urging supporters to show up Monday night in what's expected to be the coldest caucus night in history. Does anything make you nervous about DeSantis and Haley and where they may be going in the polls and what happens here on Monday, what happens in New Hampshire?
No, not at all. It's going to be Trump. Trump all the way. Yep. People in Iowa are coming out, doesn't matter what the weather's going to be like.
Trump Jr. evoking those like former U.S. House Speaker Paul Ryan from Wisconsin.
The Republicans weren't with him, right? Paul Ryan shut down the wall. What could go wrong? Now we have, 15,000 people coming across a day.
In a final push to fire up Trump's base. You mentioned Paul Ryan in there, former congressman, Speaker of the House from Wisconsin. He told me recently that he's not going to attend the convention if your dad is the nominee.
no one in the Republican Party could care less. Like, Paul Ryan's a non-entity. I mean, Paul Ryan, it's a 2008 entity. The Republican Party, conservatives, the America First movement, they look at Paul Ryan as a pariah, not a benefit, not a plus. He's the person that didn't deliver the wall when we actually had the House and the Senate. He's the person that prevented that. He sits on the board of Fox News, and I mean, he's the rhino that the America First movement despises. So if he doesn't show up to the convention in Milwaukee, no one gives a damn. I think he'd be booed if he went.
You're out here, it's cold. What are the campaign's biggest concerns headed into Monday?
Listen, I think that people just assume that there's such a big lead that a lot of people just don't show up. It's supposed to be -4, the apathy, and I sort of feel that like the other campaigns are pushing that notion. Like, oh, don't worry, it's fine. They're pushing out the media polls that have you up by margins that have never happened in Iowa before. Now, I believe that if everyone actually shows up, we win by those margins, but people actually need to show up. So that's my only concern going into Monday.
Everything ends in Milwaukee with the convention. Under what scenario is your dad not the nominee on that stage?
I can't think of one unless there's incredible gamesmanship. They'll try everything.
Iowa voters take the caucuses seriously. We met Bobby from Oshkosh, a Wisconsin Republican who traveled to Iowa this past week to see what it's all about and get a front row seat to the candidates unique to Iowa.
I mean, I'm going to all the different rallies, and I want to kind of see what they all have to offer before Iowa really takes foot and decides who they're going to pick for their primary candidate. And ideally, DeSantis has an opportunity to really show that he can outperform Trump and maybe make some big changes in our nation.
The convention happened in our state, in Milwaukee. Do you think DeSantis has to win here on Monday night to make it to this?
100%, 110%. Otherwise, I don't see a clear path.
In these final hours, the campaigns rely on an army of staff, volunteers, and interns.
I'm calling just to follow up and see if you're planning on caucusing for Vivek on January 15th.
Alexandra Lang from Waukesha is spending her final days of winter break with Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign.
I always grew up being Republican, my mother is, so she kind of instilled those values in me. So then when I went to St. Louis, I started running a college Republicans club on my campus, and Vivek came to St. Louis, and I was able to meet him and got offered an internship here.
So you've been here for a couple days?
Yes.
Final days leading up to the caucus.
Yes.
What is the urgency like from the campaign side and for what you're doing to help out as an intern?
Yeah, we just want to make sure we have enough voters coming out to the caucus, being able to vote for him.
What are you hearing from Iowa voters at this point?
Yeah, I mean, we have honestly a large number of undecided voters, which really helps us out.
I'll let you hear from this guy. Thank you again.
Ramaswamy polling in single digits, a distant fourth, didn't cancel campaign events when the blizzard rolled through.
This is why I'm asking all of you to come out.
Confronting some climate protesters late Friday night in West Des Moines.
Excuse me, anybody who wants to actually have an open conversation can stay. If not, you can show yourself out.
We're from Milwaukee. Convention in this summer in Milwaukee. I'm curious, what do you have to do Monday night to have a chance to make it on the convention
Exceed
stage?
the expectations that have been set for us, and I think we are going to shatter those expectations. I feel good about that. And I do think I'm on the path to get the nomination, as much as that defies the media narrative.
Will you attend the convention in Milwaukee if you're not the nominee?
I expect to attend the convention as the nominee. That's what I'll be doing.
What does exceed expectation mean Monday night?
Well, you know what the expectations are. Look at the polling narrative that's set for us. Exceed that, and I think we have achieved a major victory coming out of here.
David Kochel is a longtime Republican operative in Iowa. You've been doing this a long time here in Iowa. What's going to happen Monday night?
Well, we got two campaigns going on right now. It's Trump versus expectations. He's got a big lead. It doesn't look like that's going to change. I don't think any numbers have really moved over the last several weeks. So whether or not he gets over 50 is going to be really meaningful. He's been polling over 50 in Iowa in the last couple of polls. So if he falls under that, he's going to be measured against those expectations, and people will have to ask, well, what happened? Why didn't he get above 50%? Why did over half of Iowa caucus goers go somewhere else? And then the real race is for second place, to kind of who gets to earn the right to go on to New Hampshire with any momentum at all. Iowa's never really been, especially on the Republican side, about picking the ultimate nominee. We've been about winnowing the field.
DeSantis put all of his eggs into this basket. I mean, if he does come in third, is he done?
I mean, I don't know what they have to say for where they're going to break through. She's way ahead of him in New Hampshire. She's in spitting range of Trump in New Hampshire. South Carolina is her home state, and even though she's behind there, DeSantis isn't really even on the map. So I don't know what their argument would be for going forward if they don't have a good finish here.
And when we look ahead to the convention in Milwaukee this summer, I mean, is there any scenario it's not Trump on the stage at this point?
Yeah, there's a path for someone like Nikki or even DeSantis. If he blows out and wins here in Iowa, then, it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But there's always a chance. We can't foresee what's going to happen with any of these trials.
Difficult path, though?
Yeah, it's really difficult. Probably walking across Iowa in a blizzard, difficult.
All right, so here on the ground in Iowa, the campaign's really starting to lower expectations because of this major unknown factor, the temperatures, the snow that came over the weekend, and the record cold expected tomorrow night, Jaron.
Some great coverage as always on the ground there, Matt. And Iowa, all right, stay warm, and we'll see you soon. Coming up for us here in Wisconsin, remembering former U.S. Senator Herb Kohl in his own words. Plus, longtime friend Chuck Pruitt is here, standing by next.